Your retention offer has been approved. $3,800. That's the number. Brenda slid the paper across her desk like she was doing me a favor. Like $3,800 was supposed to make me feel valued after 24 years of keeping this bank's systems alive while everyone else slept. I looked at the number. Then I looked at her. I understand, I said. That was it. No argument. No negotiation. What Brenda didn't know was that I'd seen Tyler's offer letter on the shared printer 6 hours earlier. $28,500. For a kid who'd been here 18 months and still couldn't navigate the legacy firewall protocols without a cheat sheet. If you love stories about corporate underdogs who refuse to stay down, hit that subscribe button right now. Every day brings completely new stories, each one more intense than the last. My name is Earl Maddox. I'm 48 years old, and I've spent the last 24 years working the night shift in the Cybersecurity Operations Center at Southwest Regional Bank in Phoenix. Navy before that. 8 years. Cryptographic Systems Specialist. The kind of work where you learn that silence is a weapon and patience is a strategy. When I started at Southwest Regional in 2001, the Operations Center was a converted storage room with humming servers and the permanent smell of burnt coffee. I was the third person they hired for IT security. Now, the department has 42 people across 3 shifts. I built half the defense protocols myself, the legacy systems that protect the core banking infrastructure, the ones that interface with the Federal Reserve settlement network, the monitoring algorithms that flag intrusion attempts before they breach the perimeter. None of it is documented. Not officially. There are manuals, sure. Brenda has them in a binder on her shelf. But those manuals describe what the systems are supposed to do. They don't describe the 17 workarounds I implemented over 2 decades when vendors went bankrupt, when software went end of life, when patches broke more than they fixed. The real knowledge lives in my head. In the notebooks I keep in my locker. In the muscle memory of my fingers on the keyboard at 3 a.m. when something goes wrong and there's no one else awake to ask. I missed my father's funeral for this job. August 14th, 2019. Dad had a stroke on a Tuesday. He died Thursday morning at 6:47 a.m. The funeral was scheduled for Saturday. Friday night at 11:30 p.m., the intrusion detection system flagged anomalous traffic from Eastern Europe. Looked like a coordinated attack, the kind that could expose customer data for 340,000 accounts. I called Brenda. She was at a conference in San Diego. "Can Tyler handle it?" she asked. Tyler had been on day shift for 4 months. He'd never seen a live attack. "No," I said. "Then I need you there, Earl. I'm sorry about your father. I really am." But this is critical. I stayed. I stopped the attack. I missed the funeral. My sister hasn't spoken to me since. Brenda sent a fruit basket to my apartment. The card said, "Your dedication is what makes Southwest Regional strong." That was the last time anyone mentioned it. Director Brenda Holloway came to Southwest Regional 6 years ago from Wells Fargo. MBA from Northwestern. She's 41, always wears the same rotation of 4 blazers, and has never once asked me how the legacy systems actually work. She manages metrics, response times, ticket closures, the numbers that look good in quarterly reports. Every year during budget season, she talks about modernization and streamlining the security stack. Every year, she gets reminded by someone in risk management that the legacy systems can't be replaced without a $4.2 million infrastructure overhaul and 18 months of downtime. So the legacy systems stay, and I stay with them. Until last week. Tyler Chen joined the day shift 18 months ago. He's 28. Degree in computer science from Arizona State. Certified in all the right things. He interviews well. He speaks the language Brenda understands. "We need to optimize our incident response protocols," he told her in a meeting I wasn't invited to, but heard through the conference room's cracked door. Optimize. That's the word he used. "The night shift processes are outdated," he said. Earl's been doing things the same way for 20 years. We need fresh perspectives, agile methodology, real-time threat intelligence integration. I stood in that hallway for 43 seconds, listening to a kid who'd never stopped a live attack tell my director that my methods were outdated. Earl's reliable, Brenda said. He's a good worker. But you're right. We need people who can grow with the organization. Grow with the organization. That's when I understood. I wasn't a security expert to them. I was a legacy system. Something they maintained because replacing me was too expensive and too complicated. The retention offers came out last Monday. Every year, the bank identifies critical personnel and offers retention bonuses to keep them from leaving. The amounts vary based on what HR calls market competitiveness and strategic value. I'd gotten retention offers before. $8,000, $12,000. Once, after a competitor tried to recruit me, $18,500. This year, the offer was $3,800. I didn't ask why. I knew why. Tyler was the future. I was the past. And $3,800 was the number that said, "We don't think you'll leave, and we don't think anyone else wants you." But I wanted to see it. I wanted to hear Brenda say it to my face. So I requested a meeting. Her office smelled like the lavender diffuser she keeps on her credenza. The same credenza where she displays her Women in Banking Leadership Award and a framed photo with the CEO. "Earl, I'm glad you came in," she said. "I wanted to discuss your retention package personally." She slid the paper across the desk. $3,800. "That's the number," she said. "I know it's lower than previous years, but we're tightening the budget. Everyone's making sacrifices." I thought about Tyler's $28,500. I thought about his 18 months versus my 24 years. I thought about the funeral I missed, the Thanksgivings I worked, the 3 a.m. phone calls I answered for 2 decades. "I understand," I said. Brenda smiled. The smile people use when they've gotten what they wanted. "I knew you'd be reasonable, Earl. You've always been a team player." I stood up. I didn't extend my hand. "Will that be all?" "That's all." "Thanks for coming in." I walked back to my desk. The night shift wouldn't start for another 6 hours, but I wanted to see the operations center in daylight. Wanted to see the systems I'd built, the monitors I'd configured, the chair I'd sat in for 8,760 nights. Tyler was at his workstation, headphones on, watching something on his phone. He didn't look up when I walked past. I opened my locker, took out my notebooks. 3 of them, spiral-bound, filled with 24 years of workarounds, patches, and protocols that existed nowhere else. I put them in my bag. Then I sat down at my workstation and typed a single email. "Director Holloway, effective immediately. I am declining the retention offer of $3,800. My last shift will be tonight, ending at 6 a.m. Wednesday. I will complete standard handoff documentation as outlined in Section 4.2 of the Employee Manual. Earl Maddox Standard Handoff Documentation. Section 4.2. The manual that described what the systems were supposed to do, not how they actually worked. I hit send. Then I removed my badge from my lanyard and placed it on the desk. The plastic was warm from 24 years against my chest. I left it there. My last shift started at 10 p.m. Tuesday. The operations center was quiet, the way it always is at night. Blue glow from 37 monitors, the hum of cooling fans, the distant whisper of the HVAC system cycling air through a room that never sees sunlight. I logged in at 9:58 p.m., same as always. Tyler had left his shift notes on the shared drive. 3 sentences. Quiet day, no incidents. Updated the threat feed. Updated the threat feed. That's what he thought the job was. At 11:15 p.m., I noticed the first anomaly. Traffic pattern from an IP range in Tallinn. Estonia. Not unusual by itself. Banks get probed thousands of times a day from everywhere. Automated scripts, bots. kids in basements testing their skills. But this pattern was different. The requests were spaced at irregular intervals: 47 seconds, 112 seconds, 23 seconds, 89 seconds. Not the mechanical rhythm of automated tools. Human timing. Someone was manually probing the perimeter, testing responses, mapping the architecture. I flagged it in the monitoring system. Standard protocol. Then I waited. At 1:30 a.m., they found the gap. The legacy authentication system. The one that interfaces with the Federal Reserve Settlement Network. Tyler's optimized threat feed didn't monitor it because it wasn't on his checklist. Wasn't in the modern security stack. It was a 20-year-old system running on borrowed time, held together with custom scripts I'd written in 2008. They were probing the handshake protocol, looking for the vulnerability I'd patched 6 years ago when the vendor went bankrupt and stopped issuing updates. My patch worked, but only if you knew how to maintain it. Only if you ran the verification script every 72 hours. Only if you understood why the timing mattered. Tyler didn't know. Tyler had never asked. I watched the intrusion attempt on Monitor 7. The attackers were good, patient, professional, state-sponsored maybe, or organized crime. Either way, they'd done their homework. At 2:15 a.m., they found the weakness in my patch. The timing window. A 340 millisecond gap that opened when the verification script was overdue. Tyler hadn't run it since Friday. 4 days. The gap was wide open. I could stop them. 30 seconds of typing. Run the script. Close the window. Lock them out. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. 3,800. Tyler's 28,500. Earl's reliable. He's a good worker. But we need people who can grow with the organization. At 2:45 a.m., they breached the firewall. I watched it happen. The traffic patterns shifting. The authentication logs filling with foreign entries. The lateral movement beginning as they mapped internal systems. I didn't type a single command. I picked up my coffee. It was cold. I drank it anyway. On Monitor 4, the intrusion detection system started flagging alerts. Red icons multiplying like bacteria. The automated responses kicked in. The ones Tyler understood. The ones in the manual. They weren't enough. The attackers were inside the perimeter now. Moving toward the customer database. 340,000 accounts. Names. Social security numbers. Account balances. Transaction histories. The phone on my desk rang. The emergency line. I looked at the caller ID. Operations Center. Day shift. I let it ring. 4 times. 5 times. 6. It stopped. Then it started again. I stood up, walked to the coffee machine, poured a fresh cup, watched the red icons multiply on the monitors behind me. The phone rang 12 more times before 3 a.m. At 3:15 a.m., my cell phone started vibrating. Tyler's number. I declined the call. He called again. Declined. Again. Declined. At 3:28 a.m., Brenda's number appeared. I watched it ring. 4 times. 5 times. Then I powered off the phone and put it in my bag. At 6 a.m., my shift ended. I logged out. Standard protocol. I completed the handoff documentation. Section 4.2. Just like I said I would. Shift uneventful. Monitoring systems nominal. Refer to standard documentation for ongoing items. I signed my name. Collected my bag. Walked past the monitors still flashing red. The day shift was supposed to start at 6 a.m. Tyler was supposed to be at his desk. He wasn't. Probably on a call with Brenda. Probably explaining why the alerts were cascading, and he didn't know how to stop them. I took one last look at the operations center. 24 years of 3 a.m. shifts. 24 years of being the one who answered when things went wrong. Not anymore. I walked out at 6:04 a.m. The morning sun was just hitting the parking lot. My truck was in the same spot I'd parked it for 8,760 nights. Space 47. Employee parking. The space closest to the east entrance, because my knees hurt after 8 hours in that chair. I drove home, made breakfast, scrambled eggs and toast, fed Rex, my Labrador. He wagged his tail and looked at me like he knew something had changed. "Yeah, buddy," I said. "Today's different." Then I went to bed. I woke up at 2:15 p.m. to 47 missed calls. Tyler, Brenda, numbers I didn't recognize. The bank's main switchboard. I didn't listen to the voicemails. I made coffee. Black. The way I'd been drinking it since the Navy. Sat on my back porch with Rex and watched the Phoenix sun bake the desert. At 3:30 p.m., someone knocked on my door. Through the peephole, I saw Marcus Webb, Senior VP of Risk Management, the man who'd reminded Brenda every year that the legacy systems couldn't be replaced. Standing on my porch in a suit, sweating through his shirt in the Arizona heat. I opened the door. Earl. He was breathing hard, like he'd run from his car. "Thank God. We've been trying to reach you all day. I saw. We need you to come in. Right now. The systems are..." He stopped. Looked at me. Really looked. "You know what's happening, don't you?" "I completed my handoff documentation," I said. Section 4.2. "Earl, this is serious. We're looking at a major breach. Customer data. The Fed interface is down. We can't process settlements. The regulators are asking questions." I leaned against the doorframe. Rex sat beside me, calm and quiet. "Have you talked to Tyler?" I asked. Marcus's face tightened. "Tyler doesn't know how to fix this. No one does. The documentation doesn't match the actual systems." "That's interesting," I said. "Earl, please, I'll authorize whatever you want. Double your retention offer. Triple it. Just come in and stop this." I thought about it. I really did. 24 years of habit told me to grab my keys and go. But then I remembered that lavender-scented office, that paper sliding across the desk, that smile when Brenda thought she'd won. "I appreciate you coming by," I said, "but my employment ended at 6 a.m. this morning. I'm not available for emergency support." Marcus stared at me. "You can't be serious. I completed my handoff documentation. Standard protocol. Earl, 340,000 customers. Have a good afternoon, Marcus." I closed the door. Through the window, I watched him stand on my porch for 2 full minutes. Then he pulled out his phone, made a call, and walked back to his car. Rex looked up at me, tail wagging. "I know," I said. "It does feel different." By 6 p.m., the local news was running a story. Southwest Regional Bank experiencing system outage. Customers unable to access online banking. A TM network down across Arizona. They didn't mention the breach. Not yet. But they would. Once the regulators got involved. Once the forensics started. Once someone figured out that customer data had been exposed for 3 hours, while the one person who knew how to stop it sat at his desk and drank cold coffee. At 8:47 p.m., my phone buzzed again. "Brenda." I answered this time. "Earl." Her voice was thin, strained, the voice of someone who hadn't slept. "We need to talk. I'm listening. I need you to come in. Tonight. Whatever happened today, we can work it out. I'll talk to HR about your retention package. We can revisit the numbers. What numbers did you have in mind?" Silence. I could hear other voices in the background. Urgent. Overlapping. "We can discuss that when you get here. I'd prefer to discuss it now." More silence. Then, "Earl, people's financial information is at risk. Customers. Families. This isn't about you and me. This is about doing what's right." I let that sit for a moment. Doing what's right. "You're right," I said. "It's not about you and me. It's about compensation alignment. Until that conversation happens in a formal setting, I'm not available for emergency support." "Earl. Good night, Brenda." Click. The breach made national news on Thursday. Southwest Regional Bank confirms data exposure affecting 340,000 customers. Investigation ongoing. The stock dropped 12% before noon. The CEO held a press conference. Words like isolated incident and customer protection priority and enhanced security measures. No one mentioned my name. No one mentioned 3,800. Friday morning, my phone rang at 9:15 a.m. unknown number, but I recognized the area code. Corporate headquarters in Scottsdale. I answered. Mr. Maddox, please hold for Director Holloway. A click. Elevator music. 30 seconds. Then Brenda's voice. Formal now. Careful. Earl. I'm calling to formally request a meeting. Today, if possible. I've spoken with the executive team. We'd like to discuss terms for an emergency consulting engagement. Consulting, I said. Correct. Standard day rate plus a resolution bonus. We're prepared to be flexible. Flexible. That was new. What rate did you have in mind? Another pause. I heard papers shuffling. $2,500 per day. Plus a $50,000 completion bonus if the systems are secured within 72 hours. I did the math. 24 years. 3,800. Tyler's 28,500. The funeral I missed. The Thanksgivings alone. The 3 a.m. calls. I'm available to meet, I said. Monday at 2 p.m. Your office. Monday? Earl, we need this resolved now. Every hour. Monday at 2 p.m. Or you can have Tyler handle it. The silence on the other end lasted 8 full seconds. Monday at 2 p.m., she said. I'll send a calendar invite. I'll see it when I check my email. I hung up. Rex was watching me from his bed, tail thumping against the floor. 3 more days, I told him. Let them feel what 24 years of silence actually costs. Monday morning, I took my time. Woke up at 7 a.m., made breakfast. Eggs over easy. Toast with butter. Black coffee. Fed Rex. Sat on the back porch and watched the sun climb over the Superstition Mountains. The meeting was at 2 p.m. I didn't need to think about it until then. At 11:30 a.m., I showered. Put on khakis and a clean button-down. The same clothes I'd worn to work for 24 years. Nothing special. Nothing different. Rex watched me from the doorway. Hold down the fort, I said. He wagged his tail. He understood. I arrived at Southwest Regional at 1:47 p.m. The parking lot looked the same. Space 47 was empty. My space. The one closest to the east entrance. I parked somewhere else. Visitor parking. Because that's what I was now. The security guard at the front desk recognized me. Jerry. 62 years old. Worked nights like me for the last 15 years. Earl. He looked confused. I heard you left. I did. Then why? Meeting with Director Holloway. He checked his computer. Printed a visitor badge. Handed it to me with something that looked like respect. Good luck in there, he said. I clipped the badge to my shirt. Visitor. The word felt strange against my chest, where my employee badge had lived for 8,760 nights. Thanks, Jerry. Brenda's office was on the 3rd floor, but the meeting wasn't in her office. The calendar invite had been updated that morning. Conference Room A, executive level. The room with the floor-to-ceiling windows and the 20-foot mahogany table. I took the elevator, watched the numbers climb, thought about all the times I'd taken the stairs because the elevator felt too slow at 3 a.m. when systems were failing. The doors opened. Conference Room A was straight ahead. Through the glass walls, I could see them. Brenda. Marcus Webb from Risk Management. A woman I didn't recognize in a charcoal suit. And at the head of the table, Robert Chen. CEO. The man whose face was on the press release. The man who'd used words like isolated incident and customer protection priority. 4 people for 1 meeting. I walked in at 1:59 p.m. Earl. Robert Chen stood, extended his hand. Thank you for coming. I shook it. Firm. Brief. Mr. Chen, please, sit. They'd left me a chair at the end of the table, facing all four of them. The configuration said everything. They thought this was a negotiation. They thought I was coming to bargain. I sat down, placed my hands flat on the mahogany. Brenda spoke first. Earl, I'd like to introduce Sandra Vance, General Counsel. The woman in the charcoal suit nodded. Her eyes were careful, measuring. Before we begin, Sandra said, I want to clarify that this meeting is being held in good faith to discuss a potential consulting arrangement. Nothing said here constitutes an admission of liability by Southwest Regional Bank. I looked at her. I understand, I said. Robert Chen leaned forward. The CEO, the man who made $4.2 million last year, while I made $78,000. Earl, I'll be direct. We're in a difficult situation. The breach last week exposed significant vulnerabilities in our legacy systems. Systems that, I'm told, only you fully understand. That's accurate. We need those systems secured, properly, and we need documentation that will allow our team to maintain them going forward. Also accurate. He glanced at Brenda, then back at me. Director Holloway mentioned we discussed a consulting rate, $2,500 per day plus a completion bonus. I'm prepared to improve that offer. $4,000 per day, $75,000 completion bonus. That's over $100,000 for what we estimate is 2 to 3 weeks of work. I let the number hang in the air. $100,000, more than my annual salary, more than 12 years of retention bonuses combined, more than the value they'd placed on my 24 years of service when they slid that paper across Brenda's desk. That's a generous offer, I said. Robert smiled, the smile of a man who thought he'd closed the deal. We value your expertise, Earl. We always have. Have you? The smile flickered. I'm sorry? I reached into my bag, pulled out a manila folder, placed it on the table. This is a summary of my retention offers over the past 15 years. Total compensation, $127,500. Adjusted for inflation, that's approximately $98,000 in today's dollars. I slid a second sheet across the table. This is a summary of Tyler Chen's compensation in 18 months. Salary, bonuses, and the retention offer he received last week. Total, $214,000. Robert's face didn't change, but his eyes did. I'm not sure what you're implying. I'm not implying anything. I'm stating facts. For 24 years, I was worth $3,800 in retention value. Tyler, with 18 months and no ability to handle a live attack, was worth $28,500. The market spoke. I listened. Brenda shifted in her chair. Earl, compensation decisions are complex. There are factors. I know the factors. I looked at her, held her gaze. I heard them through your conference room door. Earl's reliable. He's a good worker. But we need people who can grow with the organization. Her face went pale. I was standing in the hallway for 43 seconds, listening to Tyler explain that my methods were outdated, listening to you agree. Silence. Marcus Webb cleared his throat. Earl, whatever was said in that meeting. Doesn't matter now. I turned back to Robert. You want my expertise. You want my documentation. You want me to fix what Tyler couldn't fix and teach your team what Tyler never learned. I understand, but let's be clear about what this is. I leaned forward. This isn't consulting. This is a market correction. Sandra Vance spoke. Her voice was calm, professional. The voice of someone paid to manage situations exactly like this. Mr. Maddox, I want to be transparent. The bank has suffered significant reputational and financial damage from last week's incident. Our insurance carriers are involved. Regulators are asking questions. There will be investigations. I'm aware. In that context, we need to discuss not just compensation, but also the circumstances of your departure. Specifically, your actions during the breach. I looked at her. What actions? You were on duty when the intrusion occurred. Our logs show you were logged into the monitoring systems. You saw the alerts. I did. And you didn't intervene. I completed my shift according to standard protocol. I documented my handoff per section, 4.2 of the employee manual. I declined to perform work outside my job description during a notice period. Sandra's eyes narrowed. You're saying you watched a cyber attack unfold and chose not to stop it. I'm saying I performed the duties outlined in my job description. The duties I was compensated $3,800 to retain. The specialized knowledge required to stop that specific attack was never documented, never compensated, and never part of my formal responsibilities. That's a very careful distinction. I learned careful in the Navy. 8 years of cryptographic systems work teaches you that precision matters. Robert Chen's face had gone from confident to something else, something harder. Earl, are you seriously suggesting that you let this happen because of a retention bonus? I'm suggesting that for 24 years, I provided expertise that exceeded my job description because I believed in this institution. Last week, I learned exactly how much that belief was worth, $3,800. So I gave you $3,800 worth of work. Standard Protocol, Section 4.2. I paused. Your authority to demand more ended when you put a number on my value. My expertise has a price now. You said it. I'm just honoring the market. The room was quiet. Brenda was staring at the table. Marcus was looking at Robert. Sandra was writing something in her legal pad. Robert Chen spoke slowly. What do you want, Earl? 3 things. I pulled out another sheet of paper. First, a consulting contract at $6,500 per day. Not negotiable. That's the rate that reflects the actual market value of specialized legacy systems expertise. I've checked. It's actually below market for federal financial infrastructure work. Robert's jaw tightened. That's below market. Yes, I said that. Fine. What else? Second, a completion bonus of $150,000 upon full documentation and knowledge transfer. Payable in 2 installments. Half when the systems are secured. Half when your team can maintain them without me. $150,000. Correct. Sandra looked up from her legal pad. And the third item? I looked directly at Brenda. Tyler Chen receives no disciplinary protection. His performance during the breach is evaluated by the same standards applied to any other employee. If those standards result in termination, so be it. Brenda's mouth opened, closed. Earl, Tyler is 28 years old, 18 months of experience, certified in all the right things, and completely unable to protect 340,000 customers when it mattered. That's not my opinion. That's the incident report. Robert Chen was very still. Tyler is my nephew, he said quietly. I know. The silence stretched. 5 seconds. 10. Then Robert nodded slowly. You've made your point. I haven't made any point. I've stated terms. You can accept them or reject them. But if you reject them, you should know that I've already had preliminary conversations with 3 other financial institutions. All of them have legacy Federal Reserve interfaces. All of them are interested in someone who understands systems that haven't been documented since 2008. Marcus Webb leaned forward. You'd work for a competitor? I'd work for whoever values my expertise appropriately. That's how markets function. Sandra Vance set down her pen. Mr. Chen, I need to advise you that the regulatory exposure from the current situation is significant. The faster we demonstrate remediation efforts, the better our position with the OCC and the Fed. Mr. Maddox's terms are aggressive, but they may be necessary. Robert looked at me for a long moment. Then he looked at Brenda. Director Holloway, what's your recommendation? Brenda's face was a mask, professional, controlled, but underneath I could see it. The recognition, the understanding that 24 years of reliable and good worker had walked out the door, and she was the one who pushed. I recommend we accept Mr. Maddox's terms, she said. Her voice was flat, mechanical, subject to legal review of the contract language. Robert nodded. Sandra, draft the agreement. Earl, we'll have documents for your review by end of business tomorrow. I stood up. I'll review them Wednesday morning. You can reach me by email. I picked up my manila folder, walked to the door. Earl. I turned. Robert Chen was still sitting, still watching. For what it's worth. I'm sorry. The way this was handled, it wasn't right. I looked at him. The CEO. The man who made 54 times my salary. The man whose nephew got $28,500 for 18 months of inadequacy. You're not sorry it happened, I said. You're sorry it cost you something. I walked out. The consulting engagement lasted 17 days. I secured the systems. I documented everything. 3 notebooks of workarounds, patches, and protocols transferred into formal technical documentation that would outlast me. I trained 4 members of the security team. Not Tyler. Tyler was gone by day 3, terminated for cause performance deficiencies during a critical security incident. Brenda delivered the news herself. I heard it happened in her office. The same office where she'd slid that paper across her desk. The same lavender diffuser. The same smile she'd used when she thought she'd won. Tyler didn't go quietly. There were lawyers, family meetings. But the incident report was clear. The logs were clear. 340,000 customers exposed because the day shift lead couldn't navigate legacy firewall protocols. Even Robert Chen couldn't protect him from that. The final payment hit my account on a Thursday. $260,500. Total. More than 3 years of my previous salary. For 17 days of work. That evening, I sat on my back porch with Rex. 3 fingers of bourbon. The good stuff, not the daily drinker. The Phoenix sunset was painting the sky orange and red over the mountains. My phone buzzed. A text from my son, Kevin. He was finishing his junior year at NAU Computer Science, following in the old man's footsteps, but smarter about it. Dad, heard about the bank stuff. You okay? I typed back. Better than okay? You free this weekend? Yeah. What's up? Thought I'd drive up. Take you to dinner. Catch up. 3 dots appeared. Then, that would be great, Dad. I'd really like that. I set the phone down. Rex looked up at me, tail wagging. He knew something had shifted weeks ago. Now he could tell something else had shifted too. Yeah, buddy, I said. I think we're going to be all right. 3 months later, I got a call from a recruiter. Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco. They were looking for someone to oversee legacy systems integration across the Western Regional Network. Someone with deep experience. Someone who understood infrastructure that predated modern documentation standards. The salary was $185,000, plus benefits, plus relocation. I said I'd think about it. I'm still thinking. For now, I'm consulting. 4 clients, flexible hours. I work when I want to work. I say no when I want to say no. And every morning, I drink my coffee on the back porch with Rex and watch the sun come up over the desert. Last month, I finally called my sister. The first time since Dad's funeral. The one I missed. I'm sorry, I told her. I should have been there. I chose the job over family, and I was wrong. She was quiet for a long time. Then, it took you 5 years to figure that out? It took me 5 years and $3,800. She laughed. A short sound, but real. Come to Thanksgiving this year, she said. Don't make me ask twice. I'll be there. Sometimes the system doesn't reward loyalty. Sometimes it calculates your value based on spreadsheets and market assumptions and the comfortable certainty that you have nowhere else to go. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is prove that calculation wrong. Not with anger, not with threats, not with dramatic confrontations, just with silence and patience and the quiet knowledge that expertise, real expertise, The kind that takes 24 years to build, doesn't disappear because someone slides a piece of paper across a desk. It waits. And when they finally understand what they lost, it names its price. If you enjoyed this story about what happens when corporations learn the true cost of undervaluing expertise, hit that like button and let me know what you think in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell to get updates on new stories just like this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.